Thanks so much for joining us on the program, Diplomatic Ties. The United States of America gets its 45th president, 70-year-old TV star, property mogul, and a businessman, Donald Trump. What will Donald Trump's presidency make for the world? What will Donald Trump's presidency make for Africa? And indeed, what will Donald Trump's presidency make for Nigeria? That to be the focus on Diplomatic Ties today. And my guest today is a known face, a seasoned diplomat, retired yet not tired, Ambassador Akin Fayomi. He is former Nigerian ambassador to France and Monaco. Thanks for joining me on Diplomatic Ties.
Thank you very much.
Our focus once again is Trump's presidency on Diplomatic Ties. Stay on after this time out. It's no more news that the United States of America is having for the first time a businessman who has no political experience, who has no some say no political experience, no real understanding of policy, and a deep content on other things. This is the first time we're having this in the United States. So what do we make of it?
It's a very different scenario totally from what we've been having. It's going to be a very unconventional presidency. It's also going to be on an unpredictable presidency. As you said, Mr. Trump has no experience whatsoever in administration. He was not in the House of Rep, he was not a senator, he was not a governor. He never even had any political office before. He's never held one. So it's something that will not crystallize until maybe the first few months, 100 days or 6 months. But for now, it's going to be very, very unpredictable.
When you say something that is not crystallized until maybe the first 100 days, how do you mean here? Because one, we expect that he's going to be shaped in by the established institutions. So how do you mean it? You
don't shape a businessman that easily. You see, if he had been a senator or a House of Rep, we already know the focus of his administration, either on human rights, on security, on trade, on climate change, and all that. But this man has never even spoken about all of these things before. We just got to know him when he was campaigning. Of course, campaign rhetorics are totally different from governance. Okay. That's why I said when he gets there, that is when the scales from his eyes will open, all the noise, in quotes, that he has been making, he will realize that those are things that...
Now he's there now.
That yes, okay. Exactly. He will realize that, look, the buck stops on my table as president. I can't just open my mouth and say I want to expel all immigrants. I can't just say I'm going to cancel deal with Iran in terms of ISIS. I can't just stand up and say I want to build a wall dividing Mexico from the US and Mexico will pay for it. Why is that done? So when he gets there, that's why I said the first 100 days will probably characterize the focus which the Trump presidency will go to. Right so now, we are just stargazing.
Okay, so what do you think will shape this? Is it that, because for now we know definitely he has gone to a lot of briefings, debriefings, protocol issues, security issues and what have you, and now he's on the saddle to drive the United States economy. To drive the world's economy, because that's the #1 country in the world.
Indeed.
So when you say, is it that some groups, some structures are in place to put him to shape on this?
We hope so. In fact, the whole idea is that the presidency is not one man. President Trump is different from the American presidency. That is guided by solid institutions that have stayed there for quite a long time. So we hope, we pray that all this will, in quote, tame Mr. Trump so that he will realize that rhetorics are different from governance. If not, we are in for a very roller coaster ride in the world, so to say, because he's like an elephant in a China shop, you know, where he does be breaking things left and right, because he does not know which direction the world is going. He's preaching isolationism. There is no way for isolationism anymore in the world. It's a multilateral, multipolar system that we are running. Every country needs the other country. You can't just say you're America you are bigger than this. You don't even need this person. You don't need trade. You don't need NAFTA. You don't need NATO. You don't need anybody. That is totally. I don't know the adjective I will use. I will be, conservative.
Okay,
but I'm sure you get the picture.
Before we go into specifics, a number of persons saw Donald Trump. He emerged U.S. president through the platform of the Republican Party. But he is not seen as a Republican. How do we place these two as he governs the U.S.?
In fact, it's something that is an abnormality, because he's not a Republican. In fact, he's not a party man. I don't even know when he got his party card from. If it were in Nigeria here, they probably have expelled him and said, "Look, we've never seen your face before." He's not a Republican. In fact, even he doesn't hold the party together. They were all fighting with him when he was doing his primary. Unfortunately, the American system, anybody can throw his hat into the ring. If you have the money, you have the resources. Don't forget, he's a billionaire, so he had that network and all the money that he can muster. And that was why it was so surprising. Nobody gave him a chance that he was going to beat all these other Republican aspirants until he emerged. So he's not a party man. So you cannot call him a Republican. So that's why what he's going to do might go against the grain of what the Republican Party is noted for. And of course, the Congress is, both houses, both the House of Rep and the Senate, is held by Republicans. So that means he can't do it on his own. So that's why I'm saying that the institutions will probably help us to define Mr. Trump later on, because eventually he has to toe the line of the Republican Party, because they have their own principles. So you can be our president quite all right, but we don't know you in the party, but this is how we do things in the Republican Party.
And
this is how
eventually become a Republican.
It must then be, in that it will be shaped, by the principles.
Okay. Against all odds, when he indicated interest to become U.S. president, they took him for a joke, a joker,
Yes.
and nobody took him serious. He picked the party ticket, and the narrative changed to he won't make it.
Exactly.
Elections came. Even if he didn't get the popular vote, he emerged U.S. president.
Yes.
Now he's been inaugurated. Expectations are high. But like you said before now, a number of persons have said, okay, we see him going this direction in the case of maybe Obama, in the case of Clinton.
Exactly.
We could say, okay, he's going this way, he will not go this way, he may tinker this way, he may waver this way. But now expectations are high. As a diplomat, what are we expecting from Donald Trump's administration as U.S. president?
You see, it's presidency.
Before we go into the specifics.
Yes, we are going to see a lot of changes. The world is not going to be the way it was before. There is going to be reversal of some policies, like Obamacare in the U.S. In fact, let me go into the U.S. For us, for the world generally, as it concerns the whole world, there's going to be some paradigm shifts. NATO is not going to be the way it was before. He has said the Americans are paying too much anyway. What are they gaining from it? Terrorism, fight against terrorism is going to change. He has said even with Al-Shabaab, that why have they not won all these years? ISIS, why have they not won? We are pouring billions of dollars. So you can see that he's either going to slash some of those things, development aid in Africa, the rest of the world. He says, what is that for? I've not even fed my people in America. Why am I giving you development aid? Why am I paying for your HIV? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? So it's going to change the world as we know it right now. It might not be a catastrophe.
But if he isolates the U.S. from the rest of the world, the number one status the U.S. has, will it still be sustained?
It's going to decline, obviously. In fact, some people have postulated that this is the era of the decline of America as a superpower. Nobody knew it was going to be Donald Trump. We are not saying it might be, but it might be him, his presidency, that even triggered that decline, because he's going to isolationism, like you said. But nobody cares. If you isolate Africa, for instance, it's an opportunity for us to look inwards and take care of ourselves. We don't have to rely on you or on your aid or that. We have other friends, even among ourselves. So it might even be better for some of us if he goes that way.
What if the institutions tell him, whatever you want to do is irreversible, you can't reverse it?
But he's the president. You see, he can veto. The power still lies with him. You can only go so far. You can't force the American president to do things. We have checks and balances, quite all right. But even if the House says this, the Senate says this, he can, with a stroke of his pen, veto it and still continue with what he wants to do. He can wage war even without Congress, even though he needs the approval But if he doesn't get it, the Constitution still gives him the power for a minimum of, say, 3 months.
Okay.
And then he can be extending it 3 months. He will not say for 1 year. So there are many ways you can get around. So that's why we are just praying that Mr. Trump will mellow the rhetorics of campaign and see that governance is a totally different ball game.
Okay. Now, let us narrow down. What kind of politics should Africa and indeed Nigeria play with Trump's presidency?
In fact, like I mentioned briefly, we should not see Mr. Trump as the traditional partner that we used to see in previous American presidents. He has said that we should go to blazes. Even African Americans, even Nigerians in the U.S., immigrants, Arabs, Muslims, fanatics.
He may somersault on this.
We hope so, but the point is that what if he doesn't? If he doesn't, we prepare for 2 scenarios. Okay. 1, if he wants to go ahead with what he said he was going to do, then we know where we are. 2, what if he doesn't, like you are saying? That is a backup plan. So the first thing is to say, let me take you at face value. You have said you are going to expel us, you are not going to deal with us, you are not going to give us aid and all that. Then let me start doing it myself. Let me approach China, let me approach EU, let me approach even within intra-Africa, South Africa, Egypt and all that. Let's sit together and say, look, what if US aid doesn't come to Africa anymore? What do we do? So when you prepare for that, even if you now still sense it in trickles, then you are better prepared because you already look at the worst case scenario. So we just have to know that, look, this is not going to be the usual partnership that we normally had, which we've probably taken for granted. He wants to dismantle that. He's a businessman. He doesn't care about diplomacy. He doesn't even know what is that.
So are you saying that being a businessman, though now he has blazed the trail within the public governance process at the official domain?
Indeed.
Is it possible that he may spring a surprise after learning the ropes in the first 100 days in office?
It might spring a surprise, but the point is that...
Because now it could be, oh, I never realized this. Oh, exactly. It's like this.
Exactly.
Oh, I wouldn't have said this.
That is what I'm saying.
Now, he's facing reality now.
Exactly.
And if it springs a surprise, it could turn out to be one of the best Africa and indeed Nigeria ever had.
That is possible? It is possible. It is very possible. He's a businessman. He cut his teeth in business over the past 50 years or so. So he's good in deals. He knows how to deal here and there and to get the best out of it. Otherwise, he won't be a billionaire anyway.
So briefly, before we knock off this segment,
yes,
how should Nigeria play it to get it right with him?
We don't have to. That's what I'm saying.
It's unconventional.
Yes,
it's unpredictable.
It's very unpredictable.
But the fact remains that, let us use the word, in diplomacy, nations need each other.
Indeed.
The U.S. needs Nigeria, Nigeria needs the U.S. And we cannot just say because we have a U.S. president who is unconventional, who has spoken so negative about the country, Africa, Nigeria, we'll just blush. How do we play it?
We have institutions binding Nigeria and the U.S. We have what we call binational commission, which is a very paramount agreement. It's only done with very few countries. We don't have it with everybody. We have joint commission, but binational commission is only with about 4 or 5 countries, including America, where we are guaranteed peace and security, training of, capacity building of our military, trade and stuff, electrical, technology and all that. That one is in place. You can't dismantle it overnight. So whether we deal with him or we don't deal with him, we still deal with the institution.
So it means there are still yardstick we can use and still get what we want from the U.S.
From the U.S. without Mr. Trump.
Well, the program once again is Diplomatic Ties, and our focus on the program today is the Trump's presidency in the United States of America has been inaugurated. He has hit the ground running, and the expectations are really high. Stay on for more on the program after this time out. It is clearly seen from the analytical perspective that the United States is more into development, financing of the Nigerian economy. So under Trump, what should we be looking at?
Less of that. We are not going to have a lot of...
what if we don't have an alternative?
We do have alternative. It's not only America that gives us development aid. You said it's been good, but then we also have DFID from the UK, we have from the EU, we have from Germany, the Nordic countries, Norway, Denmark, all that. They also partner with us in terms of development aid, financing. So it's not, the Americans take the bulk of it, but if we don't get it, like I said earlier on, we look inwards. We look to other climes, and then we continue with our lives. But if we get it, fine. But Mr. Trump has already said he's going to slash most of that because he doesn't see what good it is. And he doesn't feel that he should be sponsoring, in quote, Africans that are lining all this aid, according to him, as far as he's concerned, the financing is going into individual pockets of some leaders. Why does he want to continue to do that?
Okay. Now, given his position, as he assumes office, as he hits the ground running, now we know very well that, well, I stand to be corrected, that a good number of the sectors in the United States are dominated by Nigerians who are doing very well. Now, if he's not friendly and these Nigerians withdraw their services and decide to come back to Nigeria away from the US, can they stand?
I don't think it will come to that, because
What if it gets to that?
Well, some of these Nigerians are Americans, and you cannot expel your own citizens. Okay. You know, so those are not the kind of migrants.
They may decide on their own.
That is
it's not friendly.
That is what if they want. But they are Nigerian Americans, okay. So they hold the dual nationality. So you can't expel your own nationals. They can stand up and say, I'm an American, even though I'm originally from Nigeria. So you can't do anything about it. But if they, by choice, want to come back home, the better for us. So that means it's a reversal of the brain drain.
Okay, they want to come back to Nigeria, for instance.
It will now be brain gain for us.
Now, if they decide to come back to Nigeria,
yes.
And by the time they arrive, the proper platforms have not been set for them to fit in, will Nigeria benefit from it?
Definitely not. But don't forget that these are our compatriots that we're talking about. They are not from the moon. They come home every time. They know what Nigeria holds for them. Many are coming back. Many are coming back, particularly this administration, because of the fight against corruption, fight against insecurity. Nigeria is a better place than it was some years. So everybody knows that. Even the whole world acknowledges that. That is why, you know. So some of our Nigerian compatriots, if they want to come back, even though the platform might not be ready, then they will take their time. Like I said, they cannot be forced out. Only the immigrants, people that have no papers, that are jittery now. Because if he wants to go along with his campaign rhetoric, it will not only affect Nigerians, Mexicans, Indians, Arabs. All of them will have to be shipped out. Those are the ones without papers. Majority of our people, in America particularly, the ones you are talking about, that are holding responsible and important positions, are American citizens. Don't forget also that one of the Nigerian businessmen who owns Gatwick Airport in London is part of his advisory committee.
Very well.
Of Mr. Trump.
And that was a surprise too,
exactly.
Given his negative statement about Nigeria.
Yes.
And
then he
Africa.
Went and picked. That shows you what I said earlier.
That leads me to the next question.
Unpredictability.
At some point now, he has taken off as president, US president. At some point, he also has Trump's team made up of millionaires and billionaires. What's your analysis of his team that he wants to work with?
For now, the team, in terms of international politics and international relations, it's not made up of the right caliber of people. He packed the team with billionaires, millionaires, businessmen like himself. Normally, when you are a president, you need
But I think it is a view that businessmen are the best negotiators.
But we are not talking about...
Because they know what interest lies.
No, but diplomacy is not negotiating in that sense. You have to give and take. Okay. Businessmen, they want to cut throats and they want to make sure they get the interest. The truism is that it is for them. But when you are talking of governance, you need technocrats. You need people that have done it before, people that can pull you in the right direction. He doesn't have that yet. Only 2 or 3 of his cabinet, 2 military former generals, 1 for defense, 1 for homeland security. They are like right peg in right holes. But the rest, nobody knows anything about them. They don't know the world. Look at the Secretary of State.
Beautiful. Okay.
The Secretary of State is ExxonMobil. Even though he has networking connections to Russia, where he's done oil business. But negotiating for oil is different from negotiating for hostages, for instance, or for peace and security, for instance.
But it could still be a surprise.
We are hoping, but those were surprise. We are hoping, but the final thing is that we have to work with what we have on the ground. What we have on the ground is not encouraging. If surprises come, all well and good.
Okay, during the screening by the U.S. Senate of his nominees, you could see that consistently sustained the U.S. or the U.S. Senate is very obsessed with the relationship between Trump and Putin.
Yes.
What are your comments in this direction? Because some persons are feeling that there's really no big deal about or suspicion between Russia and the U.S. Why this obsession?
I actually feel that in that aspect, his relationship with Mr. Putin might be a good thing for the world generally. They seem to be friends, you know.
But there seems to be this deep-seated suspicion.
Yes.
The United States citizens, even the government.
Because of what we learned later on about the email business with Hillary Clinton, about being hacked by the Russians, about that made her to lose the election. Of course, people will be suspicious that Mr. Trump probably knew about it.
So now that he's been inaugurated, he's now president. So what would you analyze regarding his relationship with Russia indeed?
I think it would be good if the relationship is genuine in terms of friendship. The Cold War that exists, you know, right now between U.S. and Russia, you know, will not be there. That's why I say it might be a good thing. That's why I also said earlier on that the world order might change. Whether it will be changed for good or bad will depend on the personality of the U.S. president. If he has a good rapport, a good chemistry with the Russian president, that will be better for everybody. All the problem of Crimea, of Ukraine, of Turkey, all of that will be smoothing much faster and better than it was between Obama and Putin. We had that suspicion was there. It was a frosty relationship all along. So if there is a thaw in the relationship now because of Putin and Trump's personalities, I think it might be a good thing for the world.
Okay. Now, generally, it is viewed, those who really believe in Trump's presidency say that his presidency has come to demystify a particular class in the political life of U.S. There has been a chain of events within the presidency belonging to a particular class. Maybe Obama came and changed the narrative a bit, being the first Afro-American president. Exactly. And now here's a president who is taking over the reins of power, who won election, and he's now the president of the U.S., who does not belong to any of that class. His thoughts, his line of arguments completely off it. How do we play it? Is it possible they will eventually reconcile and be a meeting point?
There might be that possibility, because don't forget, it's not too far off from that class we are talking about. He's a billionaire, that means he's a capitalist, he's rich. You know, he's a white man, that means he has white supremacist tendencies. You know, and that's what makes him be on the far right. So the difference between him and the rest of the people that were there before is just this political naivety or political ignorance on his own part. But in parts of the other parts put together, is still part of the establishment in a way. Not political establishment, but business establishment. You can't divorce politics and business, particularly in a capitalist country like America. So he's still part of that establishment, but in a very peculiar way, being a businessman. But all in all, the marriage of politics and business, you know, will eventually come into play. Okay. By the time he spends 1 year, 2 years.
There's something unique before we tie the program.
Yes.
That is very unique about the U.S. 20th January for inaugurations, and it can only change if it falls on a Sunday. Why 20th January, and also specifically at noon?
Well, that's interesting.
Let's just get this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a tradition which has come since 1776, when George Washington was sworn in as the first president. It used to be very cold. There was no climate change, all this warming that we have. So they could not do it in the morning. Most countries, by 10 o'clock, it will be you're sworn in. So they had to wait for the sun to come up a bit so that these old men would not freeze to death. So they put it at 12 noon, when the sun is at its highest. That's where 12 noon comes from. And then 20th is always supposed to be the third week of the new year.
Okay.
It used to be March before. When you do the election in November, it used to be March for some years. Then they brought it back that 6 months is too much to have a lame duck president. Okay. Then they brought it to January, saying that 3 months is enough for you to form your administration to be ready to hit the ground running, as you are saying. So it's an American tradition.
Okay. So very last word, just a few sentences. What's your comment regarding maybe caution to the world, expectation to the world of his presidency before we start the program?
I think the most important thing is that the world should not underestimate Mr. Trump. Even though he looks to be clumsy. He doesn't know anything about this. He's shrewd. He's a businessman, we should not forget, and he made billions from business. So we should not underestimate him. It's a quick study. It might surprise all of us all, and we hope that it does, and his presidency will not be as catastrophic as people are thinking it will be.
Okay. Thank you so much. Excellency Ambassador Akinfayomi.
My pleasure.
It was nice talking with you on Diplomatic Ties.
My pleasure.
Ambassador Akinfayomi was former Nigerian ambassador to France and Monaco. And our focus on the program today has been Trump's presidency as he hits the ground running, 45th president of the United States of America. A lot of expectations, and like he has said in the course of the program, that he must bring the surprise that the world will really be held spellbound. A lot of issues, and I believe maybe this may not be the end to it with regards to analyzing Trump's presidency on this program. We did it shortly after he won elections, and we have done it as he hits the ground running as United States president. We hope to do it maybe after his first 100 days in office to analyze if truly he has come up with the surprise the world is expecting. Thanks for watching, and on behalf of all of us, be our guests on the program. Bye-bye.